You're listening to Turn the Page, a bookish podcast about all things fantasy, YA, LGBT and romance. Each month we'll be reviewing new books, sharing our thoughts on the latest book news and events, and hosting our monthly book club. And now over to our hosts, Kaylee and Sophie. Hello and welcome back to the first Turn the Page podcast of 2021. We're back after a bit of a break, and as always I'm joined by Sophie. Hi Sophie, Happy New Year.
Hello, and you?
Yeah, thank you, and Happy New Year everyone. So today our episode is all about TBRs, that endless list of books we just want to read that just keeps getting longer and longer and longer and threatening to drown us, but that we just can't stop adding to. But before we get into that, I just wanted to take a very quick moment to say thank you to everyone who entered our recent giveaway, and a very big congratulations to Megan, who won 2 books of her choice from Book Depository. I hope you enjoy them, Megan. If you enjoyed the Turn the Page podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Just email us at myendlessshelf@gmail.com or leave a comment on the blog and we might give you a shout out on the next episode. Okay, so as I mentioned, in today's episode we're going to be talking about TBRs and planning your TBR for the upcoming year. So for anyone who doesn't know, TBR is just your to-be-read list or to-read list. And it's sort of a shelf on Goodreads, and you can add it on Storygraph or whatever you use, really. It's just what we call the books you want to read. We're a bit late getting this off the ground because of the third lockdown here in the UK. We had planned this for January, but, you know, things happen. But anyway, we're back now, and today we're going to be talking about reading challenges and how they can help or hinder your reading journals, and much more. But first, I think we should talk a little bit about what we've been reading lately. Do you want to start us off, Sophie, and with the books you've read since we last spoke?
So I think I have read... Hang on, just going into my nice little reading journal that we have here.
Yeah, so Sophie and I was going to mention this later, but Sophie and I got each other reading journals for Christmas, completely by accident. We both bought each other the same one. We didn't even intend... We'd never told each other that we were buying reading journals, but we both ended up getting each other the same one. I think secretly,
like, I wanted one for myself.
Yeah, and I wanted one for myself. And we bought each other one. Yeah, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Okay, so I think during the last episode, I was about halfway through The Wolf and the Water.
By Josie Jaffrey, yes. Yeah, which is a YA sort of Atlantis-inspired retelling. Yeah. Cool. How did that go?
I gave it three-ish stars.
Okay, so 3 stars. See, I think some people... sorry, not to interrupt you, but some people sort of automatically assume that 3 stars is a bad rating. No, I don't think that. I mean, on the blog, we only ever really rate things 3 and above because I don't generally like giving negative reviews. No. I don't want to slander somebody's work when they've worked so hard on it. And as I always say, there's a book out there for everyone. Just because we don't enjoy it doesn't mean other people won't. And vice versa. You know, we've read books that have been rated poorly and we absolutely love them. They've been 5-star reads. And we've read books that have been rated 5 stars and absolutely hated them.
Yes.
As the book
shall not name it.
Yeah, we won't name it. The book from last year. But yeah, so... Sorry, continue. So 3 stars isn't a bad review. It means you did enjoy it. There were things that you liked about it. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I really liked the plot. It was fast-paced. There was plenty of action in there. Kept you guessing all the time of where it was going.
Yeah.
But I could not connect to the characters at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else gets that as well. But like you just don't feel emotionally attached to them.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I had a similar thing happen to me with one of the books that I read recently, which I'll talk about in a little while. Mm-hmm. So I do know what you mean. If there's not that connection there, if you don't feel invested in their character, if you don't want them to succeed, or if you can't relate to them in any way, it is hard, I think, to enjoy it really.
And that's the thing, and obviously the ending, I feel like it was built up throughout the whole of the book.
Yeah.
And then how it ended, it was just like that.
Right, so it went really quick.
Yeah. And I feel like for all the planning that went into the book, and the plot and everything, I feel like the ending just completely let it down.
Was it is it a standalone or is it a series? So do you think they'll continue, like the author will continue it and maybe expand on that maybe, or?
I'm not sure. I think it could be expanded on, but I'm not sure. I don't know where it'd go.
Okay. So what did you like about it then? So you've talked about obviously the character was hard to relate to.
Where it was set.
Yeah. Okay. So you like the world building.
Yeah, it was literally in this valley, and it was nobody knew about it. It was completely lost.
Was the mythology good though? So obviously it's like mythology and Atlantis inspired. Did that ring through quite well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Obviously it's called The Wolf and the Water. There isn't any wolves in there, like not.
Yeah, I assume that's a metaphor.
Yeah. But that was quite good.
Yeah, that sounds
obviously
really cool.
You've got a love triangle in there, which again it didn't really work for me.
Love triangles are hard to get right. There are so many that are just bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, like in one way, it was quite sweet and like, oh, everybody gets along, and
yeah.
But for me, I was just like, no, it wouldn't be like that.
Yeah, they are difficult to do. To be honest, I can't. There are very few love triangles that I actually enjoy. Some of them are so cringy and just don't work. So yeah, I can understand why that would be a bit of a pain point for you, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else have you been reading?
I also read A Villain for Christmas, which you recommended.
Yes,
to me.
I did last year. By Alice Winters.
Yeah, and I listened to this on Audible because it was narrated by Michael Leslie.
Yes, I did the same.
Who is my favourite narrator of all time. I rated this 5 stars. Just because it was fantastic. I loved everything about it. It wasn't really Christmas themed.
No, that's what I got. It wasn't really Christmassy. It was set at Christmas time.
Yeah, it was set in December.
But it didn't give you like Christmas feels. No. But it was really funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
But then you've also got like these heartfelt moments where you feel really sorry for the different characters, and I think my favourite character being Balzac, the bald hairless cat.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a really good book. And I think with that one, I'm glad that I listened to it. Because Michael Leslie really brought the characters to life. Yeah. So I do think that was really good. What else?
I read one, it was just a really short read, really. Every Heart a Doorway.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
It's part of the Wayward Children series.
I haven't heard of that one.
It sounded really, really interesting.
Who's it by?
Shonen. Sian.
Okay.
Shonen Maguire.
Okay.
Yeah, not really sure how to pronounce that.
Okay.
Apologies for getting that wrong. But yeah, anyway, the plot is it promises, like, obviously, you know, all the children that go missing through doorways and down rabbit holes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that. Well, it's saying like, well, what happens when they get kicked out of those worlds and when they come back?
Oh, okay.
And they go to this school, like a boarding school.
So a bit like a rehabilitation once they've been down the magic.
Yeah. Because the
Tunnel or
parents think
whatever.
they're all like insane, and
Yeah,
like,
okay.
basically send them off to this boarding
that
school,
makes
not
sense.
really caring.
Okay.
Again,
that does sound really cool, actually.
Yeah, but I was quite disappointed, if I'm honest.
Oh, no.
And I only gave it 2 stars.
Oh no! So that's your worst. Is that your worst book so far this year?
So far.
Oh, that's a shame.
Like I said, the idea of it was really good, but I don't know, for saying that it was young adult, I was quite disturbed for like the way that these murders started happening. Like you got quite sadistic ways of murdering like these other kids.
Oh, okay.
And so, obviously you're trying to find out who the murderer is and why, and I figured that out from really early on in the book. So
it's always a shame, isn't it, when you guess the plot twists so early.
So I'm a bit disappointed about that. But I think that's just me, because like I said, I've checked out obviously the reviews that it's got on Goodreads and Amazon and stuff, and it's quite highly rated. So
as I said earlier, sometimes a book just isn't the right fit for you personally, but you know, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
You know, it's like, for me, I am really character driven.
Yeah.
And plot twist driven. So if a book has really, really strong characters who are compelling, but also has massive plot twists that you do not see coming, those are some of my favourite books ever. So the books that I rate the highest are usually those books. It's the books with the characters you're immediately invested in. You know, they sometimes they make you laugh or whatever, but in the plot twist you just don't see them coming. It's just completely surprising. And then also, you know, there's books that I absolutely love where it is just character. The plot might not be great, but the characters are so good that the plot doesn't really matter because these characters are so real and so engaging that the plot almost is an afterthought, if that makes sense. So it's not as important as the characters.
Yeah.
Whereas for other people, the world building is the most important. So, you know, they will be reading for the fact that they want this completely fleshed out fantasy realm, and they want to know all the history and all the languages and everything. And for me, that just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's just, you know, there's different books out there for everyone, and you've just got to find what you like, and some things you won't. So... What, have you read anything else?
We also... I read The Bear and the Nightingale, which was our joint read,
yes,
which we'll talk about that later.
Yep, perfect.
And then I'm about a quarter off finishing The Cemetery Boys.
Yes, by Aidan Thomas, which we buddy read, didn't we? But I've already finished it. That was brilliant, that was.
Yeah, I'm
really,
literally...
really
I've got I've got less than 100 pages to go.
Okay.
So.
Well, I won't spoil the ending for you, but it was just fantastic.
Yeah,
Again,
I'm loving it
that's one of those books where, as I just said, the characters were so good. I didn't mind that the plot was a little bit predictable.
Yeah.
So I guessed the plot quite early on. And I think you were supposed to. There were that many hints. It was almost like it was inevitable that you were going to guess what's going to happen. And I think with that, the main thing was that the characters didn't know. You did, but they didn't. So you're kind of like screaming at them, it's this person, it's this person. But again, like I said, the characters are so good. The relationships between the characters are so good that it just compels you to keep reading.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, at the end, I did have tears in my eyes at the end. I just can't.
I know, well, I got stuff. It's a bit like they both die at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, you kind of get the same feeling because you know it's not going to go anywhere, but you're rooting for it to go somewhere and...
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, it just well, with that book again, the characters got under my skin. So even though the title gives away what's going to happen, because you get these feelings for these characters, you almost make yourself disbelieve that it's going to work out okay. It'll be fine.
Something's going to happen, and they'll just change it all around.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that didn't happen in that book. So not to spoil it for anyone. But yeah. So okay, is it my turn?
It's your turn. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all for me.
So I've read a few. Yeah, I've done all right actually. The first book I read was Sins of a Wicked Duke by Sophie Jordan, which is a romance. So over Christmas, Bridgerton came out on Netflix.
Yeah, loads of people have talked about that, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's a book adaptation of a book called The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. So I hadn't read that before, and I just watched the series because loads of people were talking about it, and I thought, I'll give this a try, and I did enjoy it. It's not very deep, there's not a lot there, but it was fun to watch, and it was interesting. For me, I think I liked most of all the music and the sort of the scenery and the costume design and everything in that. I thought that was really good. But after watching it, I was like, I really want to read like a Regency romance. That's what I want to read right now. So there's one that I read quite often. It's just one of my favourite romance authors. So like I said, it was Sins of a Wicked Duke by Sophie Jordan. And it's good because it's got sort of a gender twist. So the main character, she does sort of a Mulan thing and disguises herself as a man.
Yeah.
Because she's sick and tired of how women are treated and how she's being treated because she's a woman in that period. So she disguises herself as a man. So it's quite interesting actually because there's almost a bit of chemistry there is a lot of chemistry actually between the male love interest and her while she's disguised as a man. So I'm like, it's like almost bisexual romance. I'm just categorising it that way. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that. It's like a bit of a naughty romance. It was just fun to read, really. So that was always good. And then I read I got the December Fairy Loot box, which I got as a one-off, and that had in it and I only got it because it had Master of One in it by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett, and I'd heard about this book so much. I think I talked about it last time actually. It was pitched as a fae heist kind of book. So it's a YA fantasy. It said it was a bit like Six of Crows, and it's LGBT storyline, and it was written by a married queer couple as well. And I thought, how brilliant is that? That's really good. So yeah, I jumped at it, and the book's beautiful. It's got obviously it's fairy loot, so it's got gorgeous glittery sprayed edges, and it's really, really pretty. And I read it, and the beginning blew me away. The prologue was really good. The prologue was really brutal and murdery, and I was like, wow, didn't expect that. And then so the prologue set several years in the past. And then when the first chapter kicks in, you meet the main character, Rags, who's sort of a down on his luck thief. He's been captured and he's in jail, and all of a sudden he ends up being forced to do things he never wanted to do and working for people he never wanted to work for.
Yeah.
And it starts off really, really, really well. He ends up just being tortured, basically, with all these bad things that happen. But throughout it all, he's so funny and witty, and you just want to wrap him up and just be like, I want all happy things for him. And it was going really, really great. We met the next character, and they started to build some chemistry. And then all of a sudden, we were about, I don't even know, 20 chapters in.
Yeah.
A crazy amount of chapters in. And then it started to introduce new point of view characters. So after sort of chapter 19, 20, the next chapter was from a completely new character's point of view who we hadn't met yet. And then after that, there was another one, and then another one, and then after 10 more chapters, it'd go back to Rags for one chapter, and then all these other different characters. And all I was thinking the whole time is I just want Rags back because he was my favourite. And then as well, once that happened, this pace there at the beginning was just speeding along. And I was reading really quickly and just like we're whizzing through this. It just took a dive and went really slow, and I was almost forcing myself to read through these chapters that I just wasn't interested in, just to get back to the character that I was engaged with. So again, this is my thing where I love these characters who, you know, they are funny, they are damaged, they are scarred, but you love them.
Yeah.
And that's what drives the story for me. So I was just skipping through for his chapters. So like I said, the middle was a bit slow and a bit drab, but then we got to sort of the ending again, and that really picked up again, because again it was more from Rags's perspective, and loads and loads of action happened at the end. And this is they haven't announced a sequel, but it finishes in a place where you think there's got to be a sequel. So I do want to keep reading the series. I'd just prefer it to be just from Rags's perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it is good. It just, like I said, it just took a bit of a dive when it started to split.
It's good though that you've
narratives.
That you were interested in that character so much that, like, obviously it pushed you to read on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I didn't exactly rate it badly. It's just it was, I think, a 3.5, 4-star read for me. It was just the beginning was so strong and the end was so strong. It just lost itself in the middle a bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the themes in it, the ideas in it. It was also well done and really, really interesting. I just think it would have benefited from just sticking with the one narrator.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that would have just helped the plot to just go through. But yeah, so moving on, sorry. The next book was The Bear and the Nightingale, so again, we'll talk about that later. And then I went back and I did read The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, which is the one that Bridgerton is based on. And yeah, that book is a problem. There's a scene in the show that is not... It's just not great.
Right.
Basically, the main female character takes advantage of the male character in a way where if the roles were reversed, you know that there would be outrage.
Yeah.
So I'm really not sure why it was in the movie. Now, obviously, I hadn't read the book before, so I didn't know whether it was in the book or not, and it is, and it's worse in the book. Because basically he's intoxicated in the book. He's sort of drunk, so... I think it makes it even worse.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I enjoyed everything really but that.
Yeah.
And I did a sort of different kind of review of this on the blog because I wanted to compare the book and the show. The show had some points that I think were better, so some of the characters were a lot better. And I loved the diversity in the show as well. In the book, yeah, there were some characters that I felt should have been in the book that weren't. So I think maybe the show drew off the later books in the series, because there's a lot of books in the series that I haven't read. I've only read the first one. And I think that probably drew character inspiration from other books as well. Yeah. But yeah, so it was a bit of a half and half one for me. I did enjoy it, but there were just things that were really problematic. So I couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, I think. So yeah, but maybe we'll see how that goes, I think, and just see whether it gets any better, the series. And then I read Cemetery Boys like you did. Like I said, it was a buddy read, and that was really, really good. And thank you for that, because it was a gift from you.
It's all right. Thank you for mine. Very for Christmas.
Yeah. It was an unexpected gift, and that was really, really nice. But yeah, I loved that. It was really, really good. I think it was really interesting to have a book that had a trans main character that was written by a trans author. I think, you know, this sort of all the culture in it was beautiful.
Yeah.
The scenery was lovely. You like straight away from the first chapter, it was like, oh, I'm there.
Yeah.
I am in in this place that they are in.
That's what I'm enjoying about it.
Yeah, it was just like you jumped into the pages. It was like a Mary Poppins painting, and you just jumped into it. It was really, really good. And like I said, the characters were fantastic. I won't waffle on too much because we've already covered that. But yeah. And then at the moment I'm reading an arc of The Charmed Wife by Olga Grushan. And that's an arc I got from Nightingale. And it's interesting. It's meant to be a Cinderella retelling.
Right.
and it has gone in a very bizarre direction.
Really?
Yeah. So it started off. Basically, it starts off with a woman talking about how she's telling the story of Cinderella to her daughter, and it turns out that the woman who's speaking is actually Cinderella, and she's actually talking to her daughter and telling her daughter the story of how she met the prince.
Yeah.
But it starts off quite interesting. It's quite feminist. There's also these little side stories about all these mice, which are quite funny, and it's a little bit Terry Pratchett-esque in those stories. But it kind of goes a bit strange. It's got a lot of adultery in it, for want of a big word. Yeah. So if you don't like sort of books with cheating in, I suppose it's not a book that you'd enjoy.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to go in that direction. So it's very much an adult retelling of Cinderella, and it's not a retelling really. It's more what happened after they got married. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm not quite finished yet, and I'm interested to see how it ends, but the plot has taken a bit of a dive, because it started off very well and on one tangent, and now it seems to have split off, and it keeps going back and forth, and it's sort of like, I wonder how this is going to wind itself up. I'm not really sure, because I'm not too far from the end, and I'm still not quite sure how it's going to wrap up, so I'll probably talk about that more next month once I've figured out what's going on. But thank you to Hodder and Stoughton, don't know how to say it, for the e-arc of that one. It is now available to buy if anyone wants to buy it. Like I said, it started off really interesting. It is a much more adult sort of take on Cinderella. It's almost a little bit, not thrillerish, but you don't really expect what happens to happen. It is quite dark in ways.
I was going to say, because when you think of Cinderella, you think of like the kids' fairy tale kind of thing.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. It is very, very dark. It is. It's like I said, it's got a lot the very adult themes, and it's just sort of just taking on like what happens after they get married, and how it isn't all happily ever after, and how there are some serious problems, and the things that Cinderella does to try and fix everything, and it is good. It's keeping me interested. It's keeping me going. I'm just wondering how it's going to wrap up. Really, I think that's the main thing. I'm just trying to figure out where it's going to go. Okay, so let's move on to our main topic. So we're going to be talking about planning your TBR. So do you plan your TBR? Why don't you? Have we added any new books to our TBR since the start of the year? So we're just going to jump straight into that. As I said, we got the same Amazon reading journals from Amazon for each other for Christmas. Yeah. And I absolutely love mine. I carry it everywhere. Like, I literally don't put it down. It's with me wherever I go. Even if I'm just going from downstairs to upstairs, for some reason I carry it with me.
I carry mine. Like, I'll go for put it away upstairs, and I'm like, no, I need that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll just bring it back downstairs and I'll put it on the side. Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? So whilst I'm reading, it's just there. It's just...
Yeah, because when I start a new book, I'll fill in that... Because they're really good, actually. I wish we could show everyone. But if you want to have a look, they're by a company called smartbooks.com. So it's smart, and then books is spelt book, but with an X at the end. So smartbooks.com. But they're on Amazon. And they're really cool. So at the front, you've sort of got a content section where you list the titles of the books that you're reading, and you can tick off what genres they are. And then each book has its own individual page, and you can put in whether it's a paperback, a hardback, whatever, who the publisher is, when it was published, the page count. There's a space for you to leave a review. There's a space for you to add quotes. You can add start and finish date. There's also a little inspiration tree section on the right-hand side, which, asks questions like why you read it, what it inspired you to do, who you'll recommend it to, and then you've got the rating section where you can rate the plot, the characters, the ease of reading, and your overall sort of feeling about it. And I think I love it. It's really helping, doesn't it? Yeah, and it's really helping me to write reviews as well, because so often before I'd read a book, not make any notes at all, forget about it, and then when I've come to write my review, I'm just staring at a blank page and I have no idea what are words. So
it's also got at the back 100 top voted fiction books.
Yes. It has a space for you to write notes of any books that you want to read, any new authors, and it's got a loan record, so if you borrow books from other people, you can write them down, which we don't do.
We don't do that.
No, we don't share. We're not very good with that.
Just buy each other another copy so that we don't have to loan out our own.
Exactly, yeah, that is true. But yeah, so it's got loads in it. But like I said, for me, it's really good because when I start a book, I'll fill in the basic information. So I'll put the title, the author, and what type it is and what date I've started it and everything. And then as I'm reading, I might just jot down a little note or how something's made me feel, or if there's a particular quote that I've just enjoyed. And so when I'm coming to do my reviews, it's really, really helping because I've actually got some material there to start with. So yeah, it is really good. But what I'll do is I'll leave a link to the ones that we purchased on the blog and on YouTube. So if anybody wants to grab yourselves one of those from Amazon or wherever you can find those. But yeah, so let me just ask, do you plan your TBR? Do you have any idea of what it is you want to read over the coming month or year or whatever?
Now I do. Okay. I never used to. And it's really recently that I've tried to plan. Just because before I'd go out and I was just like, oh, new books, and I'd just keep buying and buying and buying.
Yeah, so you were like not a window shopper but a shelf browser. Yeah, I was doing the same thing. Yeah,
and then I'd get home and I'd arrange them all nice on my shelf, and then they'd kind of be forgotten about because
that's just the curse of the book lover, I think.
Then I'm thinking there's no way I've got all these books that were new at the time.
Yeah,
that are now quite old that I still haven't read. So I
feel your pain.
I did promise myself that I wasn't going to buy any more until I'd started reading the really old ones that I bought that I still haven't read yet.
Okay.
And then you corrupted me yesterday, so we did more virtual book shopping.
We did.
I'm
not sorry. So... To be fair, in my defence, you bought 2 books. I only bought our next book of the month, which we'll reveal later. So I was quite good. I only bought our book club.
I thought I was good for not buying more. But I did have a book shopping spree last week as well.
That's true.
But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I have started to plan my TBRs, and I've got a little notebook, and I'm doing it month by month.
Yeah.
So I've kind of looked at my bookshelf and I thought, right, okay, what's the oldest? And then I've looked a little bit more.
This is new information for me. I didn't know you were doing this.
Yeah. Looked a bit about the book and I've got really excited for it, and then I jot it into my month. But obviously leaving enough room for if I do buy little extras. Just so I don't feel overwhelmed. I've got 2-3 books per month at the moment.
But I love how you've done it, actually. I'm just looking at your notebook now. It's all colour-coded and pretty.
And I've got little sticker notes.
Yeah, that's really cute.
I've left enough room to obviously add new books in or take ones away. Obviously, if I've already got it, that's on there as well. Yeah. Which most of
that's really good. See, now I've tried that many, many times. I've tried it that way where I'll plan out my month. Mm-hmm. I've tried it where I've said, I'll read these books this year and there won't be that many. And, I've even done, last year I even got myself a TBR jar. So I wrote down all the books that I owned or all the books that were on my TBR shelf.
I did that as well.
Put them in a jar, and then the idea is that you just pick one out. But the big problem with me, and I've said it millions of times, is I'm a mood reader. I can't do it. Every time I'd pick a name of a book out of the jar, I'd think, I'm not in the mood for that now, and I'd put it back. So I got through none at all. So at the moment, obviously, the only book I have a month that I know I'm going to read is our book club choice. Mm-hmm. But I recently was really, really naughty and have subscribed to Fairy Loot again. And I'm already subscribed to BookBox subscription. And I'm going to have to choose one or the other because I'm not made of money. So yeah, but I do also want to, because the featured book they do, Fairy Loot do a read-along. So I do want to do that because it sounds like loads of fun. So I probably will add in the Fairy Loot book once a month to do that read along. And BookBox Club have an author chat, a book club meet up with the author, so I think you're supposed to have read the book by that point as well. So maybe those two. Other than that, I don't choose. If I get arcs that are released by a certain date, I will include those, because obviously I want to try and promote the books before they come out or just around when they come out. There's one actually coming out next month that I'm really looking forward to. Not next month, April. Heads all over the place. But yeah, so I don't really plan my TBR. But saying that, these reading journals are really helping me to sort of feel like I've got a plan. Yeah. If that makes sense, because I'm just sort of, it's like I said, it's just a place to make notes, and I can write down what books I'm inspired to read next. Mm-hmm. So if I'm reading one book and it puts me in the mood to read another book, then I can just write that down and then I know what I'm doing next, if that makes sense. Yeah. But other than that, I don't have a specific sort of goal.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought I'd try something different because I tried the jar thing.
Yeah.
And again, I was pulling the label out and I was like, no, I don't fancy that. And then I just pull another one out.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you've got...
Yeah, you've got
no
20 pieces
left.
of paper and you still haven't picked
got,
anything.
Like, new books sitting over there.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'll just go buy more.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought I'd try this and just give this a go.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, though, not adding too much.
Yeah.
So if you just give yourself one or two, and obviously reading's fun, you're not going to beat yourself up if you don't read both books, you know, if you only read one or if you don't read any but you read something else, you know, it doesn't matter, but I think it is nice to have a goal.
Yeah.
I think that's on the same sort of theme as like reading challenges, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. You know, they help you to sort of meet goals or make new goals. So we'll talk about those in a minute. But I just wanted to quickly talk about what's on your TBR at the moment. So do you have anything on your TBR for this month, sort of February, March time? You're going to look in your book. So what do you have?
Yeah, so at the moment, February, we just have The Cemetery Boys, which I'm finishing soon.
Yeah.
And then The Hazelwood.
Okay.
And again, I've had that for so long.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking years, and
Okay.
It's got lovely blue sprayed pages, and it's really pretty. And I've always put it back, and then I read the back, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. Why have I not read this yet? So I put that on there, and then like I said, I've still got space to add other books, obviously, because I hope to read more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like a starting point on where I'm going to go.
That sounds good. See, my February... See, I've done 2 months together because otherwise it'd just be too much for 1 month. But I've got quite a few on mine, but mostly because I've got a few arcs that I need to read.
Yeah.
Because they're coming out soon. So for me, I want to finish The Charmed Wife, which, as I said, was an arc. I'm a bit late on that one because it is already out. But like I said, I am enjoying it. The big book that I'm really, really looking forward to is Malice by Heather Walter, which is a queer Sleeping Beauty retelling. So it's all about the villain.
Yeah.
So that should be really cool. And that's out in April, so I want to try and get that read in February, March time. I want to read Law by Alexandra Bracken, which I think we might buddy read, actually, because we were going to do it for a book club read, weren't we? But we've changed that. So that sounds really cool. I've got another couple of arcs. I've got a Game of Wings and Marks by Rebecca Crunden, which sounds really cool, actually. It's about a girl who finds an angel who's being hunted for falling in love with a human. And then they've got to sort of come up with a cunning plan to escape, so that sounds kind of
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and then there's also a middle grade book, so sort of a children's book on my list, which is called Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean. That's an LGBT kids book. I'm hoping to read that with my daughter. And it's sort of about a boy's journey to fix his family, and it does sound really, really sweet. So I'm excited to read that one. And then the last one was one I got in a book box. I won't say which one just because I don't want to spoil it in case anyone hasn't had it yet. But that was The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, which is a magical fantasy centering around a young con artist who tries to trick her way into a noble house to secure her and her sister's futures. That sounds really interesting. I'm sort of like, ooh, that sounds good. And the book's really pretty too. It's really, really pretty. So I do have a few things on my February, March TBR, but like I said, they're mainly just arcs that I want to read to make sure I can try and promote them in time for when they go up for sale. So actually, before we move on to carry on with the planning theme, me and you had a really productive chat, didn't we, about the podcast recently? Yes. And we've come up with themes for each episode for the rest of the year, so there's definitely lots to look forward to. And we plan on sticking around now that we've figured out technical issues and everything. So saying that though, if you do have any themes or ideas you'd like us to cover, or books you think that we'd love, or books that you'd like to see featured on the book club, we're always open to ideas and recommendations, so please do get in touch at myendlessshelf@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, so we mentioned reading challenges. Actually, no, before we do that, I wanted to talk about, just going back to our TBRs, how many books are on your TBR, do you know?
I can find out.
Can you? Okay, so I'll tell you mine. Mine is a lovely total of 1,145
Mine's not that many.
books.
I cleared all mine out because I was kind of like adding for the sake of it, and just because it looked pretty, or I didn't really know anything about it.
I probably need to clear mine out because a lot of these are ones that, I've had my Goodreads account possibly since I was about 15,
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, something along those
I've not
lines,
had mine that
which
long.
is, you know, half of my lifetime ago. I am not a spring chicken anymore. So, yeah, I've probably... some of the books that I added when I was younger are probably books that I'm not even interested in anymore. My tastes have changed so much over the years that I doubt I'll want to read them, so I probably do need to go back and have a clear out. But yeah, at the moment it is on 1,145, and since the start of the year I've already added 14 more, so that's really, really bad.
I've managed to get mine down to 45.
45?
Yeah, but I did, like I said, I went right back and I took off, like, obviously ones that I put on there that I hadn't already brought.
Yeah. Okay.
That I kind of knew that I wasn't going to read.
Yeah.
So
that's mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just trying to come to terms with the fact that I'll never read all the books I want to. I don't have Bernard's Watch or the ability to travel back in time, so I'm just trying to accept that and read as many good books as possible. It's why I've stopped forcing myself to read books I'm not enjoying, because it's just a waste of my life and reading time. So, yeah.
I think I've added about 17.
Since the start of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing though, isn't it? Because so many amazing books come out, you just keep adding to it. And yours will go, well, that's the thing, you've dropped it to 45 and it will shoot back up so quickly.
But that
really
hopefully my plan will work.
Yeah, and it'll help
then
you clear off your shelves a bit.
Yeah, I can read all the old ones that I've got lying around.
Yeah.
And then buy more.
Yeah.
And get through them and not leave them.
I mean, in my defence, actually, I do need to clear some off because not my digital bookshelves, but I cleared out my physical bookshelves. I had sort of a really early spring cleaning in winter, and I think I've unhauled like 150, 200 books, which I'm planning to sell at some point, so or just give away. But yeah, so I have cleared a lot of space on my bookshelves.
Yeah.
For more books.
I was going to say I cleared.
I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to lie, it will be replaced with more. But yeah, okay, so let's move on to reading challenges. I normally set myself a challenge on Goodreads, or the story graph, but it's usually just to spur me on to keep reading. I don't really get upset or mad with myself if I don't meet my goal. So this year I've set a goal of 50 books. It's the same goal I set last year. I used to set goals of 100 or more, and I'd rather set a lower goal and then pleasantly surprise myself than set a really high one and then feel a bit bummed out that I haven't managed to do it, because life is busy. Even with the pandemic, I'm a mum, I run a business, I don't have time to read all day every day, even though sometimes I wish I do. But yeah, so I like setting them, but I don't beat myself up if I don't achieve it, because like I said, at the end of the day, reading's supposed to be fun.
I mean, sometimes I find it encourages you to read more. Especially if you're in a bit of a slump and you don't really know what to read. You're like, oh well, I'm like 5 books off my challenge. Do you know what I mean? I'll go and find
And sometimes
something.
it encourages me to be a bit sneaky and read books that I wouldn't normally. So like if I'm sort of nearing the end of the end of December and I've like got 2 books left that I need to do, and I'm like, I can't read 2 massive books, then I'll pick 2 really small ones, or I'll pick 2 graphic novels and I can whiz through them in 2 hours and I'm done. But so it does, because I did that once, and that was the first time I'd ever read a graphic novel, and I found out that I actually really loved some of them. So that did open me up to reading new things that I hadn't thought of reading before. Again, it's another way of sort of expanding your horizons. I think reading challenges are like that in general. So there's the story graph recently launched a new feature where you can set a goal to read a certain number of pages instead of a certain number of books. So this year I've set myself a goal of 10,000 pages, and I strangely enough, I'm more ahead on that goal than I am on the books goal. So I'm closer to my 10,000 pages than I am to my 50 books, which is kind of strange, but it feels nicer in a way, because you think 10,000 pages, wow, that's a lot of pages. And the fact that I'm already closer to that makes me feel really good about myself. So actually I think that's a nicer goal almost to have, because it doesn't matter how big the books are that you're reading, it's just the number of pages. So that's really nice actually. And I do really want to get into using the story graph more this year, because it does seem like a really nice tracking service. It's a lot prettier than Goodreads, I'm not going to lie. You know, it is nice to look at. There's loads of cool new features they've put on there. If you go on your stats page, it comes with all these really pretty bar charts and pie graphs of what kind of books you'll read the most and what these books have, the themes of these books, so it tells you what kind of themes you enjoy the most. And then if you click into them, you can see what books applied to that, and then you can find books that are similar, so you know you're going to pick books that you enjoy. It's great for mood readers. It really is.
I've got it. I haven't used it that much.
I'd highly recommend it. If you are reading based on your mood and that is how you read, I do think it works wonderfully, because if you're in the mood for a specific type of book, it's really hard to find on Goodreads. But if you go on the story graph and you want something that is funny or light-hearted, because I love light-hearted reads, so you can just literally click light-hearted and it will come up with a bunch of stuff. And it's really great for finding things like that. But yeah, it is good. But there are loads of other reading challenges as well. So Storygraph do their own, but you can also make some. And there are lots on there. There's one called the Queer Reading Challenge. There's a Translation Reading Challenge, a Genre Challenge. So you can create your own reading challenges to share with others, or you can just hop on and pick any reading challenge that you'd like to join. And then any challenges that you join show on your challenge dashboard, which is like just a nice central overview of what you've done. So it's really easy to track, and like a really great way, like I said, to expand what you're reading. And it's really surprising what you can achieve. So like I've only done it with, other than the books, like the amount of books and the amount of pages challenges, which are just tracked automatically. The other ones, you just have to assign a prompt from each challenge to the book that you've read. Right. So for Cemetery Boys, for example, I went on the Queer Reading Challenge, and Cemetery Boys by Ian Thomas hit 6 of the prompts on that challenge. Okay. So I'm already like 35% done with the challenge just from reading that one book, because it hits so many different prompts. Yeah. So it was almost like, oh wow, that's really good. I'm already like really far into this prompt. And again, like the prompts on there, they are really good at just like sort of encouraging you to read other materials.
I think I definitely need to like explore it a bit more.
Yeah, I would recommend it to everyone really, and like I said, I'm trying to use it more personally and on the blog. So because I know how many people love it now, so on the blog with each review, I'm trying to include a link to Goodreads and a link to Storygraph, so you can add the book to whichever TBR you want to. But yeah, it is really good. I was also looking at the Book Riot Read Harder Challenge. I've never actually taken part in it, but I was looking at it this year, and it is brilliant, and it's great for anyone who's looking to like broaden their reading horizons. So if you mostly read one genre but you really want to read other genres, it's great. That's not really for me, because I don't like non-fiction as a general rule. I'm very much a fiction person. I do just love fantasy so much. So the challenge didn't really do it for me. But it does have 24 prompts, so you can do sort of 2 books a month. Yeah. The prompts are things like, a book you've been intimidated to read, or a non-fiction book about anti-racism. And I was going to do it, but like I said, there's just some things like non-fiction where I just know I won't enjoy it, so I'm going to skip it this year and see what they do next year. Yeah. Because I wouldn't want to sort of half-arse it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And just do half of them. I would like to do all of them. It's just, I know I'm not going to enjoy it, so there's no point me forcing myself to read something I'm not going to enjoy. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm just doing a personal challenge, and I want to focus more on fantasy, because I did last year, I kind of took a detour from fantasy and read a lot of romance, which I get through really quickly, but fantasy I do love the most, I think. And I am trying to work through my TBR instead of buying new books, which isn't going well. Like I said, I've already subscribed to 2 big box subscriptions against all better judgment, and I've even pre-ordered a few books already as well. So yeah, I don't know. Gonna see how it goes. Probably not well.
Maybe we should just buy more bookshelves and just stop worrying about it.
I think that's a very, very good plan, actually, Sophie. I really do. But yeah, so let's move on. So we've talked about planning. Let's talk about, because obviously this is our first podcast of 2021, let's talk about some of the books that we're most excited about that are coming out this year. And there are so many good books that are coming out this year. What about, do you have any
There's
thoughts?
Only one, but no, there's 2.
Yeah?
No, there's not, there's one. Yeah, it's the new J. Kristoff one.
Yes, Empire of the Vampire.
Yeah, and I missed the special edition pre-order.
No.
On Waterstones, because somebody didn't remind me. She just got a copy from
I didn't truthfully, like, this is genuinely... I'd seen a post the day before saying, it'll be live on Waterstones the following day at 10 a.m. And I think at 11:30 I went, oh no, I've missed it. Went on to Waterstones, saw that it was available, bought a copy, told you about it, and then you went on and was like, there's none left.
I know, because I was at work that day and I completely forgot.
Yeah, I wonder if I sort of snagged the last copy.
Probably, because that's normally what happens. But yeah, off the top of my head,
it does look beautiful. That does, and it's again the UK cover is by Kirby Rosanes, and it's amazing. I bought one of his colouring books not long ago, and his doodles, his art is so good. It's really, really good. But yeah, I've got quite a few on mine. So there's the new TJ Klune has got 2 new books out this year. Well, he's probably got more than that, but 2 that I'm definitely interested in. So the first one is Under the Whispering Door. And I did want to mention again the cover designer because there's been a big thing on Twitter lately where cover designers aren't credited enough when book covers are the thing that draws you into a book first.
Yeah.
So that was designed by Chris at Red Noses Studio, and if you look at the house in the Cerulean Sea, the house on the front, he actually built a 3D model for that house. And that's how they got the artwork, by taking a photo of that. And he's done the same thing with Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
But actually, the book sounds a little... Not similar in terms of the culture and the themes, but just the main plot sounds similar to Cemetery Boys, because it's about a ghost who sort of falls for the man who's trying to help him pass on.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Just a slight similarity. So it does sound really good, and I know it's going to be all TJ Klune epicness and really good. And then obviously there's Flashfire, which is his sequel to The Extraordinaries. Now, I don't know who the cover designer is for that, actually. I've completely forgotten. But that should be interesting. I know he responded to a lot of outrage after the first book because of the issues with the police representation in The Extraordinaries, and he said that that's completely addressed in the sequel. And I'm interested into how it's going to pan out, because obviously a lot of cool stuff happened in the first one. If you haven't, if you do want to check that out, we did a book chat which you can find on the blog for The Extraordinaries, and we've got reviews on there as well. You can also check out our episode about it, which was episode 3, 4, one of those.
I'll lose track, to be honest.
Yeah, so check that out. There's also, I pre-ordered this the other day, You're the One That I Want by Simon James Green. Simon James Green is one of my favourite authors. His books just instantly make me happy. They just put me in such a good mood. And usually, I don't know whether they come out in summer, but they're usually all set in summer, so I get a really good sort of happy summer vibe from them.
Yeah.
So this one's sort of a Grease-inspired or Grease kind of take on it, so that it sounds really cute and really funny. Again, Empire of the Vampire. But yeah, so there's quite a lot on my list as well. There's I've already mentioned Law by Alexander Bracken and Malice by Heather Walter. There's the Infinity Courts by Kemi Dawn Bauman, which is like an it's where someone dies and there's the afterlife is controlled by artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So that sounds kind of cool, a bit sci-fi and she has to join with rebels to sort of save humanity.
Yeah.
So that sounds cool. And then there's a couple more. These are stories with trans representation in. So there's May the Best Man Win by Z.R. Ella, which is an enemies to lovers kind of old relationship to new tension after one of the characters transitions.
Right.
And then there's Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee, which is a fake relationship trope. So basically one of the characters is running a trans sort of romance help column, if that makes sense, like a relationship advice column, and they have to sort of fake a romance to save face, if that makes sense, because it comes out that the person who's writing the column has never been in a relationship, so it's like, oh, how can you be writing advice? So they kind of fake a relationship to sort of save face. And then the last one on my list is Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June, which is like a gay bucket list. So he lives in a conservative town where he's sort of repressed and everything, and then he moves away to a very liberal town, and he can start to check off all the things he's wanted to do, and that just sounds like loads of fun. So yeah, that sounds really cool.
They do sound cool. I think my TBR list is going to grow again.
Yeah,
very
it always
quickly.
does after our episodes, doesn't it, actually? Yeah. But yeah, that sounds really cool. So let's move on to our book club chat. So we read The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden, and we read that as our December book club choice because we wanted a wintry read. I was a little bit worried about this one after you started it, because you started it before I did, because you said you were struggling a little bit with it. But I absolutely loved it.
I made the mistake of starting it on Audible because I was at work, so I thought it might be easier to obviously listen to it and get it done a bit quicker.
Makes sense.
But when I started it on Audible, all the different names, and you got like 3 names for the same character.
Yeah.
So I was like, hang on, who we on right now? Who's this? And then,
I did, even though I read it, I did struggle with that a little bit at first. It did take me a little while to understand that, but I can't even remember now. Alexander, Sashka and Saskia, I think, were all the same character.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit trying to just wrap my head around that. It didn't take me too long, but it did take a little bit of time. But it was just one of the best debut fantasy novels I've ever read.
Yeah.
The wintry aesthetic was really great and really sets the tone for the book. And it was made even better by the fact that it did nothing but snow the whole time I was reading it. We've had a really crazy winter here, haven't we, in the UK? And, it was really nice to sort of read it whilst looking out the window at the snow.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Yeah, so it's a historic novel. So some of the themes aren't really nice to read about, are they? There's quite a few things that, like the child marriage and how sort of the religion was quite fear-mongering.
Yeah.
That wasn't particularly nice to read about, but it did obviously fit in really, really well with the setting and the time period, and with the fantasy elements as well. It worked really well in conjunction with each other, because it almost made the fantasy more pronounced.
Yeah.
Because there was this sort of clashing of religion and fear against it. So that was really, really interesting. But I love the dark fairy tale, and that it's just going alongside all the human drama. Because, like I said, it's very, very strange. I could picture it in my head.
Yeah, right.
Like a little movie playing out, and it was so good.
Yeah.
Like the world building was really, really well thought out, and, I could picture everything completely clearly.
Yeah.
And like I said, the way the fantasy just wove in with the real.
Yeah, like you've got the little, what they're called.
Oh, I've forgotten completely what they're called. I know what you mean, all the little, the spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but I've completely forgotten the name, what they call them. But yeah, I know what you mean, because they just pop up all in random places, don't they? Because there's spirits for lots of things, isn't there? There's a water spirit or a water demon in the lake, and there's one who lives with the horses.
And
it's going to really it's going to really bug me what the name is, but I've completely forgotten. But yeah, so like I said, the 3 names thing for most of the characters had me a little bit confused, but I got used to it really quickly, and I did really, really enjoy it. I think the main character, Vasya, was a brilliant character.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah, because at the beginning, you almost didn't expect her to be.
No.
Because the way, obviously, it starts before she's born, and with her family. And the way that she comes into the world and the things that are said around her birth, you don't expect her to be the character that she turns out to be.
Yeah.
And I think it does such a good job of twisting the characters as well, because there are characters like her stepmother who, when you meet her, you instantly feel sorry for her, and you think, oh, she's so sweet, she's going to be a nice character, and then
we hate her.
Yeah, everything changes and you end up really, really hating her.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, though, pitying her, because you can understand a little bit why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
And then you've got other characters who come in who you don't trust. There's the priest who comes in, and, you don't trust him anyway. No. But then again, your perception of him almost changes a little bit, because, things happen and you start to sort of
feel a bit sorry for him, and
but then at the same time you're still like don't like you at all. But yeah, I fell in love with it, to be honest. I thought Vasya was a great headstrong character. I think her character grows so well throughout the book. I loved the Russian landscape and the historical nature of the book, and how like how religion itself was handled and how the fear-mongering of the religion was handled. I think that was really well done. The creatures are really interesting, and I absolutely loved the frost demon at the end. Well, not at the end, sorry, towards the end, as you get to know him a bit better. And I just want to get my own magical house in the woods. But yeah, it was so good. It was really, really
I
good.
honestly didn't think it was going to be as good as it was.
I know it's very, very well rated, and I know we've left it really late to start the series because it's been out for a while.
I think all
three books have been out for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really, really blew me away. It was definitely a great book. And I loved some of the quotes and some of the things that were said. I think the Frost Demon had some of the best lines in the book. It was just really, really good. It just made me want to visit Russia. I just wanted to go, and just in winter and just explore,
find forests.
Just find forests and just wander around. But I think people who love dark, twisted fairy tales, things like The Language of Thorns by Lee Bardugo, anything like that, I think you'll really, really enjoy The Bear and the Nightingale. It was absolutely great. Normally we do... Oh, yes, we are having a Twitter chat, actually, sorry, which will be Wednesday, the 17th of February at 7 p.m. UK, so you can come and join us for that. You can catch the review at myendlessshelf.weebly.com. So if you just go on there and search for The Bear and the Nightingale, or if you click on the book club category, you will find it there. But yes, we are considering replacing the Twitter chat with a virtual book club shortly. Sophie and I have been testing out a really fun app called Bookship, and it seems really good actually so far. It seems fun and perfect for hosting a virtual book club, and it'll allow us to sort of all buddy read the books a little more. So we can share snippets from what we're reading. You can tag spoilers so you don't spoil it for anyone. And it just seems like a really fun place to connect. So we might be moving from, after this Twitter chat, we might be moving to Bookship, but we will keep everyone posted and see how that goes. Our next book, we have chosen a relatively new book for once. Yay. As I said, normally we're really behind the times and pick books that were released years ago. So because it is Valentine's Day this month, we have decided to go for a faux love story by, I think it's Lonely, which just came out this month. It's a young adult romantic comedy surrounding two Vietnamese American teens whose families run rival restaurants. So straight away I'm like, ooh, enemies to lovers, this is going to be so much fun. And people have said that you get massive food cravings from reading this book because it's filled with so much Vietnamese food. So I'm like, ooh, I'm really interested to read this. But yeah, so here's the synopsis just quickly. So it says, if Bao Nguyen, which I'm really bad at pronouncing names, really sorry, had to describe himself, he'd say he was a rock. Steady and strong, but not particularly interesting. His grades are average, his social status unremarkable. He works at his parents' faux restaurant, and even there he is his parents' fifth favourite employee. Not ideal. If Lin Mai had to describe herself, she'd say she was a firecracker, stable when unlit, but full of potential for joy and fire. She loves art and dreams pursuing a career in it. The only problem? Her parents rely on her in ways they're not willing to admit, including working practically full-time at her family's faux restaurant. For years, the Mais and the Nguyen's have been at odds, having owned competing neighbouring faux restaurants. Bao and Lin, who've avoided each other for most of their lives, both suspect that the feud stems from feelings much deeper than friendly competition. But then a chance encounter brings Lin and Bao in the same vicinity despite their best efforts, and sparks fly. So we're going to see how that goes. Sounds really cute and really cool and full of food, and I'm really excited. And again, apologies for my butchering of name pronunciations. It's not my strong suit, but yeah, so it's got like a rivals to lovers theme going on. It sounds really cute, so grab a copy of that. It is only out in hardback at the moment. Paperback and audio and ebook are not released until April, I'm afraid. So yeah, so if you can grab a copy, read it, and join us for our next book chat, which will be Tuesday the 16th of March, where we're going to be talking about all things audiobooks, what we love about them, what we don't like about them, and our favourite audiobooks and narrators, so don't miss it. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening and happy reading. Bye-bye.
Bye.